GW. It's a combination of entities that existed before. The Textile Museum of Washington, D.C. with global textiles, 25,000 in the collection. The Albert Small Washington History Collection of maps and drawings in the life of the founding of Washington, D.C. And then the third component that isn't collection-based is really our commitment to teaching and learning here. We've tried to establish this museum as kind of a laboratory for teaching for museum careers, as you all know and are evidence of. This is a great university for the museum profession, a pipeline to the museum profession. As evidence of our commitment, we have 25 employees here and 40 paid students on staff. So we've tried to integrate that. We have also have a teacher in your program. Our development officer, Eliza Ward, taught the class last year in fundraising. And as further evidence of our commitment, 5 people in this room had their course on museum management here last night. Dana, Bungie, Mark Lowinger, Carol Stringer, Hannah Woolley. Thank you. But the person who, from my point of view, is driving so much commitment to student engagement and to experiential learning is our Provost, Christopher Bracey.
Thank you, John. Good evening, everyone. Alumni of the GWU Museum Education Program, faculty, friends, and colleagues. It's an honor to be with you this evening to celebrate the legacy of a program that really has been in the forefront of educational innovation and excellence for 50 years. I think that's a big deal. Please. So in celebrating this legacy, we honor literally hundreds of graduates of GW's only Master of Arts in Teaching degrees, the only one we have at the university. Each of you carries forward a unique tradition that continues to shape the future of museum education and the museum field itself. So thanks to your commitment and your agency, museums today are more than places where we store or collect or curate materials. They are spaces where we engage in dialogue. They are spaces where we engage in discovery, and they're spaces where we seek to generate greater sense of inclusivity. They become more accessible and engaging and transformative environments where people of all backgrounds and ages can learn and explore. Those are our modern museums. The Museum Education Program, part of the George Washington University Graduate School of Education and Human Development, has literally been in the forefront of this area for this learner-centered approach. And for 50 years, the MEP has trained educators and advocates for curiosity, inclusivity, and social justice. So tonight, we're excited to celebrate the launch of a publication, The Museum Change Agents Making the World a Better Place, which was co-authored and co-edited by MEP Acting Director Lotte and MEP alumnus Greg Stevens, class of 2008. The essays in this book, and there's a copy of it sitting right over there on that table, serve as a powerful statement of the impact of the MEP and MEP alumni and what they continue to have in the museum field. The Museum Education Program, and each of you, I think, embody GW's commitment to innovation, impact, leadership, and most importantly, service. So here's to the next 50 years of transformation and success. And now, it is my pleasure to introduce the 19th president of the George Washington University, Dr. Ellen Granberg.
Well, good evening, everyone, and Chris, thank you so much for your wonderful remarks. I'm so glad that I could be here for what is really a milestone, the 50th anniversary of your program. But this is really more than a commemoration of time. It's a celebration of the impact that you have had over these 50 years on on your own careers, on the people that you've worked with, and on the museum education field at large. I was really inspired to learn about the kind of work that the alumni of this program have been doing. And I have just a couple of examples that I wanted to share. There are museum educators from the field, from this program, who develop and facilitate very, very engaging learning experiences that use primary sources, historic collections, natural collections. You serve as advocates for accessibility and accountability for a diverse public, and you lead the museum education profession. You're also museum directors, your accessibility specialists, your museum technologists, your docent managers, and your historic site managers. Your thought leaders who have shaped critical thinking and action in this field through your writing, your speaking, and your professional engagement. So take, for example, M.A.T. alumna Amy Homa from the class of 2011, who was recently named director and president of the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. There's also alumnus Schroeder Cherry from the class of 78, who introduced the concept of an African-American museum puppet docent, Ms. Lilly, which combined performance and education in a way that invites engagement and creativity and a sense of wonder. And if you think about what museums were like in the late 70s, that kind of thing was not common. But one of our alum had the insight to be able to see that this would enhance the experience of going to a museum. There's also Mary Ellen Munley, class of 79, and Gail Anderson, class of 82, who were among 25 members of the Education Task Force of the American Association of Museums that worked on a very, very important report, Excellence and Equity, Education, and the Public Dimension of Museums. This was a seminal report, and M.A.T. Director Emeritus Carol B. Stapp also served as a very formidable influence on that report. The museum field has moved miles in the understanding of diversity and equity, and in the ability to make that live out in museums. And some of our alums had a very, very deep impact on the report that got that started. Also very proud to note that an alumna, Wendy Eng, class of 06, is the current president of the foremost professional organization in museum education, the Museum Education Roundtable. And our alumna Phyllis Hecht, I saw her picture up here a few minutes ago, class of 88, founded the Museum Studies program at the Johns Hopkins University, extending our legacy into new academic realms. Now, I know it's a very, very good university, not quite as good as us, but so pleased that we have alums that are then creating new programs and giving others the opportunity in the field. There's Ayumu Ota, class of 97, at the National Museum of Japanese History in Tokyo, who represents Japan on the International Council of Museums Committee on Education and Cultural Action. So it's not just domestic. The impact of our alums is international. Now, these are just a few examples of the many who have passed through this program, each taking with you skills and values and knowledge that you gain, and you're elevating museums as places of learning, as places of accessibility, and I think most importantly, as places of inspiration. At the heart of this legacy is a curriculum that is both pragmatic and lofty, and Provost Bracey referred to that. From the very first cohort in the 1974-75 academic year, it's always been a place grounded in real-world application. This blending of theory and practice is what sets the museum education program apart, because our students don't just learn about museum education, you get an opportunity to live it as you go through your programs. From the National Zoo, to the Seattle Children's Museum, to the Hirshhorn Museum and Gardens, from the Institute for Museum and Library Services to the American Alliance of Museums, we have brilliant alumni who work alongside colleagues in the field who tackle challenges while benefiting from mentorship by leaders who themselves were shaped by this program. And so there's a wonderful, in these 50 years, a really wonderful legacy that's been established. So as we celebrate this milestone, we all really want to honor the countless contributions of our alumni who are continuing to shape the field and the future of museum education. I'm so glad so many of you could be here today. Your successes are a testament to the vision and dedication of our faculty, our partners, and the entire GW community. So I'm so glad I could be here this evening. I'm just delighted to have the chance to celebrate with all of you. And I'd now like to welcome Dr. Michael Feuer, Dean of the Graduate School of Education and Human Development, who will share a few words. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. There is not much to add, and I'm going to break with tradition and be brief. It's just wonderful to be part of this and to be with you all. I think I mentioned to Greg that when I got here, these 14 and a half years ago, I'll just share one little sort of bit about that. When I was thinking about coming to GW, as a Marxist, and I'm not talking about Karl, I'm talking about Groucho. I was wondering about whether I really want to be at a place that was interested in having me. And it turns out that one of the things that meant the most to me was a school of education that understood, both in terms of theory and practice, that education and learning are activities that are not just in classrooms, that this is experiential. And the idea that we learn in places such as museums told me at the time that this is a place where I could really find an enlightened attitude about this word education, which means so many different things to so many different people. And sure enough, at the time I started telling my friends, yeah, this school where I'm going to be the dean, among other things, has this museum education program. And we've had it for 35 years. So of course you do the math, well, sure enough, here we are, and we're now celebrating the 50th anniversary of this. And I have to tell you that when I mention this to colleagues in other schools of education or other organizations, there is a certain kind of awe and an inspiration that comes from the model of our museum education program. And you, the alumni, and by the way, where are our current students? I know some of you have been working on this. Let's have some applause for them. And while I'm at it, some of our other great GSHED faculty and staff are here. Raise your hands so we can do some sort of collective shouting out. It is a community, it is a school that values deeply the concept of learning by experience and learning in a place such as a museum. And I just am so grateful to all of you for having been part of this. And now I just want to, as a segue to introducing somebody, this is one of those situations where somebody who really needs no introduction is about to be introduced by somebody who needs all the introducing he can get. But again, when I got here and I heard we have a museum education program, I looked up in the Oxford English Dictionary, museum education. And sure enough, what it said was museum education, see Stapp, comma, All I can say is, among the most wonderful parts of the experience of being at GW is getting to know and work with somebody named Carol Stapp. So Carol, thank you. All yours. Thank you all. Great to be here.
Oh my goodness. It's interesting to see the slideshow. recognize so many people. I am very honored to speak after President Granberg, Provost Bracey, Dean Feuer, and of course John Wetenhall. It's really an honor to speak to all of you. Now, I'm a great believer in being succinct. So I'm thinking my remarks this evening, I'm thinking of them as the ultimate elevator pitch. I've explained what the museum education program is all about, sometimes actually in an elevator, so often that you would think I could handle this in 30 seconds, but I think I've been given a few more seconds to talk a little bit about the museum education program from my perspective. I'm also a great believer in being transparent. So I'm going to be completely shameless. I am proud of the museum education program. I'm proud of its plan of study. I'm proud of its principals, and I'm proud of its alum. M.A.T was founded with a sense of mission, not only for the museum profession, but for the museum public. From the outset, it has been both pragmatic and idealistic. Pragmatic because the curriculum was developed by surveying contemporaneous museum educators, practitioners, and asked what would be the best competencies for someone to come to your museum and be a museum educator. Idealistic because the museum was envisioned and is imbued with responsibility and power, with civic and ethical obligations and opportunities. M.A.T's seeming lockstep plan of study, a small cohort of students progressing through 4 sequential semesters of core courses, has thrived for multiple reasons. First, the students themselves. They come to the museum education program with a variety of backgrounds. We've had kind of the obvious, people who've got academic credentials in art history, anthropology, history, natural history. So, at the same time, we've had the advantage of having students from journalism, classics, mathematics. I think I saw our mathematics person here a little while ago. And the second reason the program has thrived is the generosity of museum practitioners. We have many of our friends here, and this is what keeps the museum education program very current. They bring their expertise to campus as speakers. They propose and supervise internships. These are very carefully matched internships, and they help fulfill our approach, which is always to have coursework and field work, experiential learning paired with rigorous yet empathetic reflective practice among the students' peer groups. That's where the keep and change comes in, that you may have seen. All right. Third, the initial and ongoing trust of the George Washington University in the value and the viability of the museum education program. The School of Education and Human Development has provided a wonderful home for the museum education program, especially promoting the idea of coordinating. And I must point out, I do believe we have somebody here representing at least one person, the Museum Studies program. Hi, Max. Most important, MEP students leave the program united by shared understandings. There's no secret handshake, but there is MEP Speak, which bonds alum over the decades. I think you've seen some of them there. The learner controls the learning. Raise your hand if you've heard that. How about see one, do one, teach one? Okay. The 3 A's, that means the museum educators' commitment to accessibility, accountability, and advocacy. And then there are the 3 C's, which museum educators' commitment and championing for the museum public: comfort, confidence, and choice. So we have all of these kind of catchphrases and symbols. And I want to add, very importantly, that MEP also has flourished through the contributions of the superb assistant directors with whom I've been privileged to collaborate over the years. Among them, Judy Landau, Mary Ellen Munley, Rosette Melora, and of course, the current acting director, Lotte. As well as spectacular adjunct faculty like Julia Washburn, Randy Korn, and Greg Stevens, just to name a few. And if you'll permit me, I also want to salute, in particular, Lotte and Greg, who, due to personality and performance, have earned the title of the 2 Rascals. They are the most energetic, gregarious, extroverted people you could ever meet. Swing dancing, Lotte's your lady. Theater sets, go for Greg, he's your guy. MEP has never shied away from celebrating the ideological and methodological core identity, while embracing a commensurate capacity to evolve with advancements in both museums and education. Again, I'm going to be seriously shameless. I'm proud to have been part of the museum education program for 45 years. I'm proud of what the alum have achieved and what they will accomplish. As I said, the catchphrases and symbols, I couldn't resist. This would be the upside down cornucopia. I hope I'm not, is this a spoiler? No? Oh, okay. Start in summer 1, fall, spring, summer 2, and this is the way of showing that the museum education program is very holistic, it is cumulative, it is focused, and it is generative. Ducks, you may ask? That's the pragmatic part, the symbol, because may look very easygoing, but you're paddling like crazy underneath. And of course the red balloon, that's for lofty, and that's the idealistic part. The meaning doesn't alter even if the symbols have over time. So what I want to say to you in closing is, be pragmatic and idealistic. Work hard and stay lofty. Expand your sphere of influence. Be a change agent. Make the world a better place. Thank you. welcome one of those irrepressible rascals to Lotte Lent.
Wow. All right. Just take a moment, please, and just look around. Just look behind you and around. You are who's here tonight. Yes! Pop that champagne. Excellent. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Dean Feuer. I'm looking everybody in the eye here. Thank you, Dean Feuer. Thank you, Provost Bracey. Thank you, President Granberg. And thank you, John Wetenhall. It's my honor here now to express gratitude for all of those who have made the M.A.T. and this collaboration possible. When my daughter Jessica was a little girl, I started working at the M.A.T. when she was in kindergarten. When she was a little girl, we had a bedtime ritual. And the bedtime ritual was to say 3 things that you're grateful for before bed. Here are my 3 gratefuls regarding the M.A.T. this evening. 1, sponsors. You will have seen some of this go by. The Marcella Brenner Endowment for Museum Education. We don't do much without the endowment. The George Washington University Museum and the Textile Museum. We are in a museum, folks. This is exactly where we should be tonight. Purple Cow Career and Talent Development. That would be an MEP alum-owned company.
There we go. Hey.
And GWU Alumni Relations. We couldn't have done this without you. Number 2 grateful for tonight, event volunteers. MEP alumni, please, those, don't be shy, who have been here since whatever hour this morning, today, raise your hands. You are serving, you are Angie, all of you, Rosette, Reynold, Angie, Phyllis, etc. And Dean Feuer has already uplifted them, but I'm going to uplift the current students in the class of 2025. You are our 50th cohort, the Divine 9. The Divine 9. Raise your hand. Raise your hand. You too have been helping creating this event. Number 3 grateful, university support. The GW Office of Communications and Marketing, it all kind of starts there. The GW Events and Venues Group. This is what got all the stuff out to you and asked you to register and created all of those important aspects of this tonight. And also the Graduate School of Education and Human Development Office of the Dean. Dean Feuer is not just the only one in there. That would also be Meg Holland and other wonderful folks who've helped us tonight. The G-Shed Communications and Marketing, that includes Tehran, who unfortunately could not be here tonight, but she's with us in spirit. And lastly, the G-Shed Department of Educational Leadership, who I think there's some members here from that group where the MEP fits underneath the Department of Educational Leadership, and we are delighted for your support. Thank you. Now, this is special to me, and please forgive me, or don't forgive me, but be with me as I have emotions about this. Now I have the chance to introduce someone with whom I've been kind of joined at the hip for the last 3 years. He is not only charming in his bow tie, but charmingly unrelenting as far as effort, quality, and deliverables go. And he is largely responsible for all the beauty that you see around, apart from yourselves, all the beauty you see around you in this room. But more than that, he is responsible for being the most understanding, loyal, and supportive person I could ever ask to work alongside. And I introduce to you now, as Carol put it, my fellow rascal, but also totally wonderful human being, Greg Stevens, MEP class of
2000. All right, so I know we're running a few minutes over time, but I'm going to jump in here. Thank you, Lotte. I'm so glad you're here. Carol, Dean Feuer, Provost Bracey, President Granberg, John Wetenhall, thank you all for being here. And of course, John, thank you for hosting us in this beautiful museum. And thank you all for joining us tonight to celebrate M.A.T at 50, as I've come to call it, you know, in the colloquial sense. 50 years, but also to celebrate the launch of our publication, Museum Change Agents, Making the World a Better Place. So if you haven't heard about it, John's holding it up right there. If you're interested in bidding on a signed copy, you can please do so at the silent auction over here on this side of the room. If you have already ordered a copy, great, pick it up tonight. And if you haven't ordered a copy, there's a QR code at the front that our fine colleagues in the M.A.T class of 2025 will help you get your hands on a copy. It is a rich, thick, dense compendium of 50 years of stories about the legacy of the museum education program. I, of course, had the great opportunity and the honor to co-edit this program, this book, with my colleague, Lotte Lent. But I'm going to say a couple of things there later. But I'm thinking right now about all the maximes, the things that are the catchphrases that are around the room that many of us are familiar with. The learner controls the learning. See one, do one, keep all of it. Right? But there's three that don't appear here that are very personal for me, that I think reflect the spirit that we all share here. And that is my 3 R's. Raise your hand, roll up your sleeves, and remember relationships. I learned about the power of raising my hand during the first week of the M.A.T, the first summer session, when Carol Stapp was talking to us about how important museum professional associations were and how important it was for us to get involved with them. And I remember raising my hand and asking somewhat naively, well, how do you get involved? How do you do that? And Carol responded, you just did. And then went on to describe how the next thing you know, you're going to be a part of a committee, and then you're going to chair the committee. And then you're going to be presenting at a conference, and then you're going to help run the conference. And I've done all of those things in my 25-year museum career, and I know many of you have done those as well. And so it's just something that I remember from that very first week of the very first summer session of M.A.T. I've been raising my hand and rolling up my sleeves ever since. But mostly as I look around the room, and I'm so glad you're here, my friend. I'm reminded about the power of relationships, the remember relationships part. That too started with M.A.T. Like many of you, I treasure all the M.A.T folks with whom I've created relationships. Faculty, staff, current students, alum, supervisors, intern coordinators, you name it. So many great relationships that have come out of it. And a number of you, as folks have already mentioned, raised your hands to help make this happen tonight. So thank you for that. But perhaps no relationship is more important to me tonight than the one I share with my colleague, my co-editor, my friend, Lotte Lent. Sorry. Gosh, we've spent the last 3 years, or maybe it's been 50, I don't know. It feels like 50, but we have spent the last 3 years joined at the hip, compiling, editing, reviewing, bickering, cajoling, hair pulling. What it is. But also negotiating, sighing, laughing, hugging, and celebrating. And for that, I am so grateful. Not only because we had the opportunity to work on something very important to honor first the retirement of our esteemed Carol Stapp. That's where this all started. But then as we knew the 50th anniversary of the M.A.T was on the horizon, we raised our hands to do something special. And here you are, here is this thing, and John, can you hold up the book again? Shamelessly. And here it is, and for that I am so grateful to all the folks who contributed to the book, and especially to my friend Lotte. Here we are. Let's just, if you have a glass, raise it, or if you don't, pretend. Here's to each other. Here's to our community of practice. Here's to the museum education program at 50, and here's to 50 more.
One last thing before you go. This signed copy, it means nothing with just Greg and I signing it. It needs you. Every single person here should sign that book. That's what'll make it a beautiful book and something that people actually want to bid on. Please, sign that book. Go ahead. Love you all. Eat great.